These are 30 amazing base build locations on Bjarnheim in ARK Survival Ascended. If you don't know, Bjarnheim is a free-to-play modded map made by Nakardis that you might know from Fjordur, Svartalfheim and Astraeus, to just name a few, and he's made a new map inspired very much by Skyrim itself, with some awesome buy-ins already, with about half of the map currently being available. Many of these locations are straight from Skyrim itself, so definitely a great blend of ARK and Skyrim, and whilst it is an amazingly beautiful map to build on, it's definitely not the easiest map to play in survival. This video will focus mostly on build locations that I think are amazing looks wise. Whether you can survive in them, that's up to you, survivors. Hello there, survivors, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Today I'll be showing you 30 of my favorite build locations here on Bjarnheim, but if you have any others that you found on your adventures, please share them in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoy seeing videos like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to leave a comment down below if you've got any suggestions of what I should be building next, and maybe what kind of build you'd like to see me try here on Bjarnheim. Probably one of the most iconic Skyrim locations that you can find here on Bjarnheim is of course the little village of Riverwood, with a pretty much perfect recreation with all the buildings that you might know if you've played Skyrim. It definitely makes for an interesting settlement to move into. Of course, you have a bunch of pre-built structures kind of ready for you to make them into your own base, but also still some places where you could definitely expand and build your own things you might need in an ARK playthrough. But yeah, there's something very iconic about walking through these gates into this little town. If you've played Skyrim at all, there is all of the buildings that you know, really nice little place, and of course you can instantly kind of just move into these buildings. It's a bit dark inside. And yeah, you have plenty of houses to start working from. You can make little workshops, you can make different rooms, or have a whole tribe move in here. And as I said, there's definitely some flat spaces around where you could expand, and it's, well, just a very iconic Skyrim location. So definitely a good option if you want to go for that fully Skyrim vibe in your playthrough. If you want to know where it is, you can find it right here. Next up is another very iconic location from Skyrim if you've played the game, and the whole way actually running up from Riverwood to the farmlands right outside to these gates is probably going to feel quite familiar, but it also makes for a really cool and unique base location with the city walls offering you some protection. There is some creatures that can spawn inside of the walls, so you definitely want to start building a little bit to make it even safer, but you'll have a ton of houses to pick from and move into, with the different layers of the city each offering a few houses for you to just move into, live in, make workshops out of it. This would be a great location for either a giant tribe with friends, or maybe like a community kind of hub for a server. It's got some beautiful locations for sure, the Warriors Guild and everything, and of course at the very top the Jarl's house as well. So it's definitely one of the cooler and more iconic locations from Skyrim brought over to the game. If you've played Skyrim, this is known as Whiterun. Here it is the Winterhold, but it's definitely a really cool location and definitely an awesome spot to turn into your base with yeah, a bunch of things to pick from. Like, there is a lot of space here. It's a big place, but it's a very iconic one, so I felt like we kind of have to have it on this list, of course. And if you want to move in here, it's actually close to one or D easy spawn, and it's kind of central on the map as well, so might not be too bad to live here. Now, this might well be one of my favorite base locations overall. I've got a pretty soft spot for the Golden Forest in general. I love the way this looks, and this one has it all. It's got some awesome waterfalls all around it, some crude views of the surroundings, and even a bear statue worked into the landscape right next to it with a tree on top for an amazing backdrop. What I would probably do is clear out this area here from the trees, do my building there. That's already a pretty big area. Should easily fit an entire base build. And then you've got the bear statue with the waterfalls and everything right next door, as well as some nice pathways leading through the biome that you could connect up to. And of course, your surroundings, you got the beautiful golden forest spreading out around you. You got the plains in front of you, and of course, the snow in the distance. So a pretty awesome spot to call home in this lovely golden forest biome. If you want to build right here, this is where you find it. Moving into the snow might not seem like the smartest idea on a map that's already challenging enough, and also heavily relies on making the snow even more unbearable when Fimbulwinter arrives. There's definitely no denying that some of the most awesome locations on Bjarnheim happen to be in the snow. So if you can somehow manage to survive out here, I do think you could build something really, really cool. You've got the dragon skeleton right over there, kind of leaning over the glacial lands, as well as an awesome frozen bear statue right on the cliff in front of us, which is why I think that this cliffside with some really nice flat area is an awesome location to build on, because now we've got the view of the dragon skeleton, of the bear right next door, which makes for a pretty amazing view, to be honest. This is a really cool looking location. And yeah, it's a pretty nice spot to build on as well. Like, not too difficult. You're still relatively nearby leaving the snow if you really can't stand the cold all the time. And yeah, these landmarks will also always be an easy way to find your way back home. Not too far away, you would also have an OSD drop location available so that you can easily, you know, get your loot going that way without being in the direct danger yourself. So definitely think that you could build something really cool on top of this cliff. And if you want to do that, this is where you find it on the map. Up here is a really lovely and nice location to do some proper building. You've got this really nice lake, which means water access easily available. There's already a nice little bridge crossing the river leading up to this lake, and you even have a few cool waterfalls flowing down from it. So definitely some really cool scenery. And the best part is that there's some relatively flat areas up in these cliffs, which makes them perfect for some building, whether you want to build some nice things along the river and lakeside, or just expand all over these flat cliffs. You'll have a decent space here to definitely build a pretty big base with some amazing views of the valley opposite you and going all the way down to the mountains in the distance. So yeah, if you want to build right over here, you can find it right here on the map. Another one of the, well, pretty built locations, but this is actually one offering a lot of opportunities for you yourselves to build in. And I think, again, this feels like a familiar spot from Skyrim, or at least things similar to it. It's basically this little walled off area on top of a little bit of a hill, which is quite a cool spot. You could easily turn these gatehouses into functional ones by adding in the gates yourself, and you get a pretty decent amount of space inside of the walls to do some building of your own. So you can actually, you know, build a nice little base inside, have some room for breeding, etc., all within the safety of these walls. There is actually kind of a building at the end as well. You'd have to put up some lights because it's a bit dark in there, but definitely some opportunities here to turn this into a really cool base build. And yeah, instantly kind of safe with these walls around you, so it's definitely not a bad one to call home. If you want to build here, you can find it right over here on the map. Here in the Golden Forest, there's definitely plenty of beautiful locations and great locations to build your base. I myself really love the look of this biome, and this is a pretty awesome spot to start building. It's these cliffs that are a little bit higher than the rest of the surroundings. There's these pathways already leading through it and kind of even forming a perfect little circle here at the very end, kind of giving you a layout for maybe a town or village or even a castle up on that final hill, and feel connected to the main world itself. There's water nearby. I mean, you're in the lovely golden forest. What else do you want or need? I can definitely see some kind of settlement down here. These roads would be great natural things. You can, of course, easily block off the pathways leading up to this plateau, so you can turn it into your own little village or settlement. And yeah, some great locations, because you have all these lovely trees. Keeping them around, of course, will be a little bit tricky inside of your base. You'll probably knock them over at some point, but at least the surrounding biome is the nice golden forest. So no matter what, you'll always have some amazing, spectacular views all around you. So yeah, if you want to build in this golden forest, you can do so right over here. And there's definitely plenty more amazing locations out here in the golden forest, but this one in particular is quite cool because you've got this little island here in this big lake, which of course makes for a really cool location. You're kind of centralized in the golden forest, and you even have one of these rune locations right in the middle, which I think kind of serve as some kind of obelisks on this map. Not entirely, but kind of similar. At least it's an important location, so having a base nearby might not be the worst thing. Probably I would at least keep this place mostly intact as is and try to build kind of next to it, kind of on the edges of the lake, of the island, around the lake, so that you still keep this nice and cool looking location intact, but there's still plenty of space on the island to make your base and yeah, live right next to these cool ruins on this beautiful island with some amazing view of all of your surrounding. If you want to build here, you can find it right here on the map. Then a little bit more along the edges of the golden forest, I found another pretty nice location which will ensure that you have amazing views of this giant golden forest reaching out in front of you, but you also have a nice normal valley on the other side with some pretty cool views too. The platform itself is kind of a raised up area with some nice cliff sides along most of it, so that you're relatively secure here quite easily, just kind of blocking off some of the sides or making sure you've got some protection set up along those. But it also gives you relatively flat areas for building, which of course makes it a lot easier to do some bigger builds, you know, castles, villages, towns, breeding pens, whatever you're looking for. I think this location offers a lot in a pretty nice location with really good view. So if you want to build here, you can find it right over here on the map. Next up is another location that will require a bit of bravery and probably a few warm clothes, because this is another permanent snow location, but a rather cool one with some really nice red trees around the lake, waterfall flowing into it. You've got a pre-built bridge and some pre-built structures. So this is another little village that is kind of ready for you to move into. You might want to work on a perimeter wall yourself, but there's also plenty of option here to add your own structures, dino pens, etc., and make a really cool little base out here in these snowy regions around the mountain tops. Even some nice locations around it where you could definitely expand and build some structures of your own without too much hassle. And you're actually not too far from leaving the snow, so you can go into the beautiful golden forest as well, but still have this really cool and unique snowy base location. So yeah, if this sounds like home for you, you can find it right over here on the map. This is another one of those pre-built locations, which means it's easy to move into and you pretty much instantly have a complete base to use, whether you just want to have some shelter of the pre-built structures or you've got a whole tribe that can move into the town right away with each having their own building. This one's got a nice perimeter wall so that you have some defenses ready. You just need to add a gate to it to protect yourself, and then you have a bunch of little houses up for grabs here with a bunch of opportunities to really make a nice base. Some of them being quite big, so you have some sizable interiors to utilize. And of course, you even have some layers, buildings going up along those layers, and a final kind of stave church building at the very top. So definitely a lot of potential here to turn this into your base. Still plenty of room and space around it if you want to add your own buildings into the mix, but definitely one that you could quite easily move into. You also have a cool bear statue here in the rock face, which of course is an added bonus. You've got some incredible views of the Golden Forest biome, which I really always love the look of, with the mountain peaks, snowy peaks behind it. You've got these kind of more plains areas right next door, which even has a drop on it. And you also have a clear view of the snowy landscapes in the distance. So yeah, definitely a pretty awesome location that you can find right over here on the map. Down along these plains is another really awesome location for building, especially if you need a bunch of space. Now there's plenty of options here in these plains alone, but especially this like little raised up bit is a really good one in my opinion. You're slightly raised up. It's a good spot to start building. Not too difficult landscaping either. Pretty flat, so building should not be too much of a problem. And you still have some incredible views all around you. The Golden Forest, but also the mountain landscapes. And a OSD drop relatively nearby, but still far away enough that it should not interfere with your base whatsoever. So there shouldn't be anything that spawns right on top of your base, I don't think. But you'll have some easy loot available. Well, easy in the sense that it is nearby. Of course, you'll still have to win the OSD fighting. But yeah, makes for a pretty good spot. Lots of space available. A lovely lake next door. So a lot of options here for some interesting building. And if you want to build right here, this is where you find it. And if you're brave enough to move into these snow biomes on Bjarnheim, but you want to make sure that you can move in right away, then another pre-built location might do the trick. It's a pretty cool layout with a nice outer wall, so you can easily block this location off and securing the inside for yourself. And you'll have a few buildings to pick from, including a bigger building right over here with some, of course, really cool architecture to make your home right away. You've got a smaller building over here as well, and you have a bigger build right along here. So definitely some options right away to move in, and still some space left to build some structures of your own, making sure you've got everything you need, some breeding space, etc. Relative safety for as far as that's possible in the harsh snow biomes. If you want to move into this beautiful pre-built location, you can find it right over here on the map. This one is right here along the edges of the Redwoods, which is a really cool and really beautiful biome here on Bjarnheim. And this one offers a nice clearing here if you just want to build a nice base on the ground here in the Redwoods. But of course, plenty of redwood trees, which I guess means plenty of opportunities if you want to go for some tree bases instead. But this area in particular I think is quite nice. You've got this clearing, which would be great for base building. There's actually a few of these kind of areas around here. You've got the river right next to you as well, and a nice look over this lake with the dragon skeleton on the other side, which I think is just a really cool view of you know, having that from your base. I'm pretty sure there's no wyvern nest right next to this spot. It's kind of what I looked for, because there is wyverns in the redwoods in general, but I feel like this area should be far enough away from them so that, well, you won't have a wyvern right above your base when you're just trying to, you know, safely build or be at base in general. So hopefully this is a relatively safe spot to live. If you want to go and build here with this amazing view of this lake and the skeleton in the distance, you can find it right over here on the map. Then another spot on pretty much the opposite side of the Redwoods, again trying to find a spot that is clear from wyverns and wyvern nests, because I don't think you want to be building too close to them, but you can still enjoy the atmosphere from the Redwoods themselves. And it is definitely a beautiful forest on this map. As you can see, there's a lot to explore over here, but this particular location offers you a nice high cliffside. There's some flatter area up here, which would be great for some base building, of course. Well, I'm assuming the redwood trees you can't get rid of, but that can also be an advantage. Some nice landscaping that you're sure not to knock over. And as you can see, there's a decent amount of flat space here, so whether you want to build here on the ground and build your own little settlement, or you want to utilize the trees for tree bases, I think you should have plenty of opportunities up here for some really cool builds. And yeah, there is just a ton of flat area here, so even the bigger bases, even the bigger builds should be right at home over here. So you can find it right here on the map. If you have big building plans and you need a nice open space to make them come true, then this spot might actually be a really good option. It is right at the very edge of the map, so you're nice away from the busy center. And you have a pretty decent area here with not too many obstacles. I think most of these things here are harvestable, so you should be able to clear it out and be left with a giant area to work with. There is a few small little ruins here that you could kind of integrate to your build or use as a nice backdrop, or even try to rebuild yourself. But other than that, there's actually a ton of space up here. Yeah, so if whether you want to build like a giant castle base, a big breeding pen, whatever your plans are, I think there is a ton of opportunity and an absolute ton of space up here to make those plans come true. So yeah, if you're looking for a good spot with a bunch of space and you don't mind living on the edge of the map, then this is a great location. Next up, another really nice build location for the flat area on top of a cliff that you can totally use to build a pretty sizable base with amazing views from a few different biomes. It's kind of a nice valley in between a bunch of different places. You can see the redwoods down below you. You're right next to the rust area. In fact, you have an amazing view of the mountain with the bear statue right into it, so it's definitely a really cool spot. And then you can also see the golden forest right next door. So just for those options, it's already a really nice location. You can see it's a pretty big area where you could build a giant base on top of this kind of flat area cliff right in the middle of this valley. But you could also move into this like little pre-existing base where there is just a little encampment, 2 houses, and a nice pre-built wall. You could even start here, of course, and then build out your own base over on that cliff quite easily. So definitely, just for those reasons, it's a really nice spot to call home. So if you want to build your base here, you can find it right here on the map. Moving into this beautiful rust biome that definitely has some amazing looking landscape, from nice mountain peaks to, well, mountains with griffin nests, a bear carved into a mountain as well, but also some really nice cliffs with some decent flat areas that you could totally turn into some awesome base locations, of course. Whether you want to go very big and need a massive area right alongside the road, or you want to find it a little higher up and turn this cliff with this perfectly flat area right on top of it into a nice place. Whether you want to build your own castle, town, city, village, breeding location, whatever you need. There is a ton of these really nice cliff sides that have relatively flat areas, which makes it really easy to build some bigger builds for whatever your exact needs are. And you'd have some pretty amazing views of the surroundings here with beautiful mountainscapes, cliffs, and just a really nice color scheme in general in this one. So yeah, if you want to build over here, you can find it right over here on the map. Then this is another really nice location along the sides of the map. This beautiful big lake that you could totally use for a base location with a big waterfall flowing down from the sides of these mountain cliffs, but also some pre-built houses here for your convenience. So you can kind of move right into here and then expand as you go on, maybe adding more buildings, a nice secure wall, or maybe even go out onto the lake instead, build your own little lake town. There's a ton of opportunities here to utilize this beautiful location. The landscape is not too rough. It is a relatively flat area, which makes it really well suited for some building. And of course, these pre-built houses will definitely help you get started early on, since you can basically move in right away. You've got plenty of water available for you. You could even be breeding your water tames here before you go all the way back to the ocean. And you have some spectacular views of the rest of this rust biome. So if you're interested in this location, you can find it right over here on the map. This location high up in the middle of the rust biome is another really good option, because it's a nice big cliff with relatively flat area, which makes it perfectly suited for building. A ton of space available, so whether you want to just build a nice cozy base, go all out with a castle, town build, or even a nice breeding pen, you should all be able to fit that in here. It's got this ramp leading up to it that you could easily secure and close off, so nothing can get up this cliff that way. And on the other side, it's got this really cool bridge, so again, easily to secure, and you can cross over to the cliff side on the other side of this beautiful canyon and this amazing bridge. So yeah, you do have a lot of opportunity here. It's definitely a big area to work with and to secure, but once you do, you'll have an amazing location, some pretty epic views of the mountains in the surroundings and the rest of the rust biome. And again, it should be easy to secure it all, so that you at least don't have to worry about any creatures getting into your stuff. If you want to, you can find it right there on the map. This is another spectacular location here in the rust biome, with not only the rusty landscape, but also some really cool red trees all around it, and some beautiful big waterfalls flowing down the sides of these cliffs. Now, of course, it would be pretty epic to build alongside any of the part here of the cliffs around the waterfalls. It's definitely a really awesome looking location, but probably the most convenient one for a proper base with everything you need is right around the top here. There's of course the hole for where the waterfalls start, but building alongside that offers you a decent amount of relatively flat areas where you could definitely build a decent sized base without running into too much issues. It's a pretty nice one with a ramp leading up to it. You have to kind of close off only one side of the base to really secure it, or protect one side of the base. And if you try to keep some of these beautiful red trees around, you'll have a pretty epic looking location to house your base in one of the outer corners of the map, with a pretty spectacular view of the rest of the valley here. So yeah, if you're interested in building in this location, you find it right here in the corner of the map. And for the final rust biome location, we have this really nice looking cliff with a great view of your surroundings, not only looking into the rest of the rust biome, but also looking out over the valley right next to it with the mountains, the golden forest in the distance, as well as of course the snowy peaks. And it's another just nice cliff location with a decent space with a relatively flat area, which means it's a great location to do some building, kind of on the side of the map as well, so you don't need to worry about all directions to protect your base, which is always convenient if you're building something a little bit bigger. And there's a little bit of wiggle room as well. There's like the whole place here where you have a few decent spots, but yeah, these ones here right around the edge are definitely the best ones and the easiest ones to turn into a safe base. So if you want to build right here, you can find it on these coordinates on the map. Now the next location is definitely a little bit more challenging, up in one of the mountain tops, so there's always snow here. And yeah, that can be quite rough here on this map, but it is a pretty cool and iconic location. It's the mountain overlooking the Winterhold and Riverwood. It's the throat of the world, which is definitely a cool spot. It also has a pre-built location here, which is again something iconic from Skyrim itself, so definitely a good option to try and move into. But also there's just a ton of actually really good space up here to be building in. So if you're brave enough and also I guess advanced enough in the game to survive up here in the colder temperatures, this could be a really cool place to make a base and call home. Whether you want to move in the pre-built structure, there's one over there, but there's actually another one a little bit further down the mountain with a nice little castle ruin. That's what you can find right here. And yeah, some awesome spots on the mountain itself as well. As you can see, relatively flat areas up here, which would be perfect if you want to do some cool base building. So yeah, if you want to build over here, you can find it on top of the mountain at these coordinates. Again, another spot that you have to be a little bit brave or maybe a little bit foolish for, but it's definitely a cool and convenient spot if you can survive the cold. And again, I'm just kind of picking these for really cool build locations. I don't know how badly you want to live here in the snow, but you've got this glacier lake, which is a beautiful location out in the snowy mountains, and underneath the lake there's actually this cave. That would be a really cool location to turn into your base, whether you want to have some kind of like sunken base that's hidden underneath the frozen ice lake, maybe something that has kind of been forgotten, or you want to just turn it into a beautiful ice palace or whatever. There's a lot of opportunities here. It's a nice little cave area that is easy to secure by closing off the entrance, of course. As long as you can stand the cold, you'll definitely be able to do some cool things here. So yeah, if you want to find where this one is located, it's right over here on the map. Another location that might not be the easiest to survive at, but is definitely a really cool one to build at, is on the side of this mountain. Again, in one of the ever snowy regions, so you'll definitely have to stick up with the cold, but it offers you a pretty nice flat platform right at the top of the mountain, right next to the peak. So you could build something really cool, like a nice castle overlooking the beautiful valleys down below, conquering the snow and showing everyone that you are not afraid of the Fimbulwinter, or at least the cold. You might still be afraid of the Fimbulwinter, but it's, I think, a really cool spot. Like, definitely I could see some nice castle up there overlooking everything, enjoying these nice mountainsides, and yeah, having an awesome view of everything around you. If you want to build right over here and you're brave enough to face the cold, you can find it right here on the map. And even more snowy base locations for you if you can face the harsh cold regions is this one right along the edge of the map, but it offers you a pretty big snowy plateau, pretty high up as well. You've got a mountain peak right next to you, but it gives you a ton of space, especially once you clear out the trees and the rocks to do some cool building of your own. Yeah, and it's just having a nice big plateau to work with, which means the biggest base plans could easily be able to fit out here. And you're kind of on the edge of the world, so that is always a nice thing as well. You have less things to worry about. It seems mostly one ramp leading up to it that you would have to secure, and of course blocking the spawns on the platform itself to make sure that your base is pretty safe. And you're not too far from normal biomes. You can go into the Golden Forest quite easily and have some pretty amazing views from the entirety of the map from this location. So yeah, if you want to build here, you can find it right here along the edge of the map. And if you're looking for a cave, there's another one right here. It is in the snow biome, so not necessarily the easiest place to live, but this cave will offer you a decent amount of space, and of course the advantage of being easily defendable by blocking off the entrances. This entrance right over here is quite big, and if you're wondering where this is located, you can find it right here on the map. This entrance should fit most creatures, however big they are, so you probably want to make sure that if you want big creatures to get in here, you have a pretty big gateway on that side. The inside itself, nothing too fancy, but a lot of space available so that you could do some building and easily fit a bunch of creatures inside for breeding, including ocean and water tames, because there is a decently sized pool here. Not very deep, but deep enough that even some bigger creatures should probably fit inside, at least for breeding, so that you don't have to go and do that somewhere else. Here along the back, we've got a ramp leading up to the top, and there is actually another exit on the other side of the mountain, allowing you to go deeper into the snow biome quite easily. The other entrance you can find right over here, and this is probably one that you'll block off with a smaller gate and is accessible for any creature that would still be able to fit through that, but definitely has some potential here depending on what you want exactly, but should offer you some relative safety in the harsher snow biome. If you want an island of your own, moving out onto the ocean biome can actually be a pretty good call. And if you're still brave enough to face the cold snow, there is actually some snowy islands that are pretty nice for building, with good open spaces on top of all of the cliffs for some really cool building options. This one here got some icebergs out in front as well, making for a cool and unique location with a few different snowy islands here, all really well suited for building, going all the way back here too. So whether this is going to be your main base or maybe an outpost that you combine with your ocean tames to go into the ocean itself, that is of course up to you, but there's definitely some really cool options here on all of these islands with nice cliffs and relatively flat areas, which will make it very easy to do some base building. If you're interested in building here, you can find it right over here on the map. If you've managed to cross over the snowy biomes, or I guess spawned near the coastlands, there is actually some really nice areas to build at that are still snow free and offer some really cool cliffs to build on top of that are a little bit higher, so you've got some amazing views of your surroundings, and of course are a little bit easier to secure and turn into relatively safe base options, and really cool options to be fair, because well, this cliff in particular, this would be a great place to build like a town, a castle, or whatever kind of base you want to, right on top of the cliffs. But even along the coast areas, there is plenty of options for building, and even some pre-built structures that you could move in right away. So whether you want to move in only into the pre-built house, or you want to use that whilst you work on your main build, there is a ton of potential right here along the coast. And if you want to find this location, you find it right over here on the map. And here we have Dragonstone Island, unfortunately missing the iconic Dragonstone castle from Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, although there is a little ruin here that you could of course turn into your own castle base, with a really cool bridge crossing over to the larger Dragonstone area with a bunch of useful resources and a pretty cool and epic looking landscape for you to build your own base on, of course. There's definitely some options here to build something really cool and of course build your own Dragonstone on the so-called islands, or of course rebuild the ruins into their former glory. It's definitely a nice location if you want to live as close as possible to the ocean itself. And if you're wondering where to find this, you can find it right over here in the north of the map. And there we go. Those are all the awesome base build locations on Bjarnheim so far. Of course, there's much more to come to this map, and once it gets new areas, I'm sure we'll cover more amazing build locations right here on the channel. So make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on those. And if you've seen any awesome base locations yourselves, feel free to share them down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, and I hope to see you again in the next video or the next stream. For now, goodbye.